Hey guys, welcome to the Lifting Lindsay channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing with you the unilateral lat pull down. So we're going to be going over a few things. First, I'm going to be going over the anatomy so we can know exactly where on the back we're working, what division of the lat that's being worked the most as well. Then second, we're going to go over the setup and execution. And then third, we're going to go over some major mistakes that we usually see when people are trying to perform the unilateral lat pull down. So let's get started. Okay, so first let's go over the anatomy of the back, mainly the lats, because with this exercise, we are going to be biasing more of the lats. So the lats can be broken down into three major divisions because it's such a large muscle group. So just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say we're going to divide it into three major divisions: the upper, the mid, and the lower division. Now with the unilateral lat pull down, we are actually going to be in a position where we are working more of that lower division. So you'll notice that the lats attach at the upper arm, the humerus, and then it comes down and it attaches to the iliac crest there, so the top of the pelvis. So this is actually really important to understand, because when we are thinking about utilizing this exercise, I always want people to think about this. Look at the attachments. So the lats actually can be a great stabilizer for the pelvis. I don't want anybody walking into the gym thinking, well, I don't need to work my lats because I don't want to build them. Okay, but maybe you want to be able to stabilize your pelvis during, I don't know, larger movements like squats, deadlifts, RDLs, movements like that. Also, for those women like me who at one point of their life they're going to be pregnant, and I'm talking about like carrying a huge load on the front of you, right? So at one point, or maybe you have in the past had that, and we want to make sure that we can really stabilize and have strength in that pelvis as we get bigger and bigger through pregnancy, and also post-pregnancy when we're trying to recover and strengthen ourselves. Maybe you weren't lifting weights during your pregnancy, and in post-recovery, you do really want to be able to have strength and stability of the pelvis as you move into those larger movements I've already talked about. This is an exercise that I often will incorporate into my clients' work, even if their goals aren't, I really, really, really want to build my lower lat division. No, that may not matter to you, but you want strength and you want stability at your pelvis. That does matter. And so this is a great exercise to achieve just that. So next we are going to dive into the setup and execution to properly perform this exercise. Now keep in mind, what we are trying to do with lats is we are trying to actually keep the arm closer to your side. So you're going to be reaching up and think about driving your elbow down to your side. Okay, we don't want the elbows flaring a ton because that lines things up more for your upper back musculature and not necessarily your lats. So whenever we are working lats, we are always going to have our elbows relatively tucked down. So this is going to be more of a reaching up motion, allow for a slight elevation of that scapula, and then think about driving the elbow down almost into your side. Okay, we're not going to have it swing back here. We're just going to reach up and then drive down. Now, if you really, really, really want to lengthen out the lats, then instead of just having it go forward like this, you can actually bring the arm around a bit, and that is going to help lengthen it out a bit more. But that's kind of a nuanced approach. It is just fine if you feel more comfortable just having it straight in front of you and driving down here. So that means we've got to get the pulley relatively in a position where we can have that elevation and then drive the elbow down to the side. So you can do this standing and kind of figure out, okay, what feels best as far as stability goes. But I will say this much. As your strength increases, it's going to be really, really hard to keep yourself stabilized as the weight is pulling this way and you're trying to drive the elbow down this way. It may be that you start coming up at your toes as your lats get stronger and stronger. So I have that problem. I can't really do it standing, even if some people are like, well, that's fine, just go ahead and kneel down. But even with kneeling down, I do have that problem where my lats are a bit stronger and I can't get a really good output with kneeling down. Some people will kneel down and they will actually grab weights and put it on their leg. Let me show you what that looks like. So some people will actually set up something like this and put a dumbbell right here to help increase that stability. And that can definitely work. But let me show you what I like doing even a little bit more than that. So I do really love setting up with a bench and kind of leaning in or pushing into the bench. So you can either sit down into it and kind of use your arm to push against it, or sit like this and drive down, or you can even stand and push into this. And remember, the whole point is driving the elbow down and then allowing a slight elevation and then come back down. Now, if you allow your arm to elevate too much, what will start happening is you'll start seeing your arm turning that way. So we don't want it to be turning too much this way. So we can allow it to elevate up, but not to the point where it starts turning, wanting to turn like this. So you can kind of see that my shoulder wants to dip inward. So if it starts to do that during this movement, then you've actually allowed it to go forward and kind of out of your active range. Now remember, you can turn slightly and get a little bit more stretch or lengthening of the lats, or you can go a little bit more straight on. Either one is going to work really well. I would say somebody a little bit more advanced might want to find that they turn out into almost the arm a little bit more to get that lengthening. They'll really like that. So that's something that I would use for maybe a more advanced client, somebody who's already gotten into the whole routine of going up and going down. Now let's go over some of the major mistakes that we often see with this movement. Now, some of those are if the pulley is set too low. Now, keep in mind, this isn't so much a mistake, just okay, at this point, you're not hitting the lower division of the lats. So at this point, we're performing a totally different exercise, where you want to hit more of the mid area of your lats. This is perfectly fine. Just keep in mind that if you're trying to work more of the lower fibers that come down, that strengthen and give your pelvis that stability, we want it to come up higher and then be driving down. So a lot of times what I often see people do is they'll just go too wide with their elbows and then they just come way back here. And that's just working upper back. Or they drive down, but then go back, way back there. So the reason why I say this is a mistake is because what happens with hypertrophy and strength, we really do want to keep the tension on the muscle that we're trying to work. So as I drive my elbow down, the tension is right where I want it on that division of the lats that we're trying to work. As soon as I start extending the elbow back and lifting up, it actually relieves that a bit and it shifts the load now more towards upper back and rear delt even. So when it comes to hypertrophy, we generally try to keep the tension right on the muscle that we're trying to work. So when you're performing this, just drive the elbow down, maybe even a little bit kind of coming into your side and up. Another thing too is oftentimes people think, well, if I finish with a side crunch, then that's actually going to shorten and work the lats even more. But there's a tiny, tiny minimal amount that the lats actually do that. And once again, now we're shifting to a totally different muscle group that's actually performing this movement here. It's no longer the lats. So when we're performing this and we're coming down, you don't have to finish with this side bend, okay? That's not more lats. So keep in mind, the motion is allowing for slight, that upward elevation of the scapula, and then drive the elbow down. And as soon as it can't go down anymore, then we just go right back up. So hopefully that was really helpful. You now know what part of the back you're actually working, why it's so important, and common mistakes. We don't need any side bendy at the bottom, and we don't want that elbow flying back and up past that movement, because then we're really relieving that lower lats that we're trying to keep the tension on, right? So hopefully that was helpful for you guys today. Go ahead and like, subscribe, all that good stuff, but also let me know what other exercises you would love to see me break down.